Hey there, welcome into Drummer Daily. I am pumped you're here. I've got some good music playing. Well, not right now, not while I'm talking to you, but I did have some good music playing. I have my cup of coffee in front of me, which is very important to me if you know me at all. That's important to me. I've got some incense burning in the background because I like the vibe. And I am ready to talk to you about drums today. So let's get to it. By the way, this is episode number 132. In case you didn't know, I'm going to start trying to say that out loud on the episode pretty early on so that you at least know, in case your phone or whatever accidentally plays you the same episode again, it'll be easy for you to recognize, hey, I've already heard this one, or this is new. This is episode number 132. All right, so I've got another great listener question that came in recently, and I thought that I would just jump in and do that. And as long as I'm getting questions from you about things you'd like for me to talk about on the podcast, I don't see any reason to talk about anything else except for what you want to talk about. So if you have an idea for something you'd like for me to talk about, or you have a question, just write me, daniel@danielhadaway.com. And I do my best to reply on emails. I've cut down my email replies to, I normally try to reply to all my emails once or twice a week. I just get so many that it's easier for me if I just jump in and reply to all of them at one time versus all throughout the week. So if you write in and you have a question and I don't answer or reply right away, it's not because I've ignored it. It's just that I haven't gotten back to my time to reply yet. I'm trying to be more disciplined about that stuff. And I may not reply, and I may just answer your question on the podcast. So just keep that in mind if you do write in. But I've got a great question today, and I want to get to it. So this one is from Josh. And he says, as a drummer, does it help to move to a heavy musical city such as Nashville or something on the West or East Coast? I'm a drummer in Little Rock, and I would prefer to start a career as a drummer with a band that comes out of my city. So how do I leverage networking and building my portfolio while not necessarily being in a city that has a ton going on for it in the world of music? It's a great question, Josh. And the first thing I would say is I have a lot of friends from the Little Rock area, and a lot of friends. I have several friends who come from that area of Arkansas, and then some others just from Arkansas, but many of them are very familiar with Arkansas. And I would say, actually, I think that Little Rock's got one of the coolest local music scenes that I've heard of. Now, disclaimer, you're from there, I'm not. And it's easy for me to say that when I'm not a drummer there trying to make a career and get started with a band there. So it's easy for me to say. But based on what I've heard from other musicians who are from there, they think the scene there's pretty cool. And there's one, I wish I could remember the name of the music store. There's one pretty cool used music store there. They don't have a lot of drums, but they have a lot of cool other gear there. So I visited that place a couple of times. But anyway, you were asking about whether or not you need to move. And so I definitely do not believe that you need to move. Maybe 10 years ago, I would have said, yeah, that's a good idea, or maybe work towards doing that someday. But I definitely don't believe that to be the case now. Now, the reason why is, and this is going to sound, depending on your perspective, this might sound really... I'm not an old man at all. I'm not that old. So when I say things like this, I'm like, man, I sound like an old man. But in this day and age, with how things are able to be done over the internet and social media, I really don't believe that you need to move in order to make a career happen. And I honestly don't know, like I said, the past 10 years, if that's really ever been true. And here's the reason why. I know a bunch of producers here in Nashville, which is where I live, that don't limit the scope of who they're looking for drummers, or where they're looking at for drummers. They don't limit that to just Nashville. They'll look anywhere they can. So, and I know a lot of guys who have out of town producers who've come in town to produce records for somebody because that's where the artist is or whatever. And then they still, even though they're in town, will have me record remote from my house. And again, there's nothing, we were right on the road from each other, and I still didn't go into the studio in Nashville and record. I still recorded remote. And so I get, I don't want to say all the time, Like it's not like every day, but I do get pretty regularly and pretty frequently, I get requests from people over Instagram or Facebook who are asking me to record tracks for them in my home studio. So in my experience, you don't need to move. Now, I understand the other part of your question is I would prefer to start a career as a drummer with a band that comes out of my city. That's something that's interesting. I definitely, what I want to say is this: by saying I want to be a pro drummer, but I want to do it in this specific way, you are naturally limiting the number of options you have. And I'm not saying your options are limited in the sense of you're not going to have very many. I just mean that if there's a large number of options available to you, by saying I want to do it with a band that comes from my area, you have naturally shrunken the number of opportunities that meet that criteria. So you have to understand that by doing that, you're being a little more specific, and that means that it's going to be a little harder, and it's going to be a little less likely. And again, I don't believe that likelihood or luck play into it, but you're going to have to look a little harder. You have to do a little more legwork to get there. And this goes for anyone who's listening to this, if you want to start a band or start a career as a drummer with a band, here's the thing about you starting a career as a drummer with a band. You are depending on specifically 2 or 3 other, or maybe 4 other people for the results of and the success of your career. By following a path of being in a band, you could be the greatest drummer. You could follow, all the things that I teach about being the kind of person other people want to hire, being a great, even in the context of a band, being a great bandmate, being a great leader, playing well with a click track or having solid tempo, making things feel great, handling your own business and your own money well. You could do literally all of that, but if the rest of the band members aren't up to that caliber of where you're at, it's going to make it really hard for you to have a career as a drummer. Or what if a lot of people, what if you love the music that you're playing, but a lot of other people just don't like the music they're hearing? You could be a great drummer and you could be really well equipped to be a professional drummer, but if you're playing music that other people don't like, again, it's limiting the success of the band, which means limiting the chances of your success. So I don't want to push you away from that, but I definitely think that you should look for a band and try to be in a band if that's what you really want, that's what you enjoy. But I would just encourage you that if you are serious about becoming a professional drummer and that's your priority, then do the band thing, but don't rely on that as the means for making your career as a drummer. Basically pick your priority. I would not recommend you pick the exact path of I want to be a successful drummer with a band be the way that you frame what you're approaching. I would suggest you say, I want to be in a band and I want to be a drummer in a band that's great, and that be your goal. And then also second down the list is I'd also like to be a professional drummer, or say I really want to be a professional drummer. That's my priority. And then also along with that, I would like to be in a great band that I get to play with that's from my city. You see the difference there? Don't define the whole path for yourself as saying I want to be a professional drummer, and the way that I do it is by being in a band from my city. And you're saying there's not much of a music scene there. So I would just encourage you to separate out your priorities, and I'm not saying you can't do all of them. I'm just saying you got to have a target, and you got to have a target that at least you can see yourself making progress on. And I just don't personally like hanging my hat on. I definitely think as drummers, we need other people to help us be successful. But as far as becoming a professional and making a career as someone who's in demand, being a part of a band where I'm relying on a few specific people for years on end to help me make my career, that doesn't seem very appealing to me, and so I would encourage you away from that. So I hope that helps. And hey, if you are a drummer out there and you want to be a professional, there's a lot of pieces to that go into that, and there's a process you can follow, and I try my best. Right now, I have an email newsletter that I send out that has a lot of really great content around becoming a professional drummer. And also, just so happens that if you sign up for it, you also get a free drumless backing track every month just for signing up. And the way to do that is to just go to danielhadaway.com, and right there on the homepage, you scroll down just a little bit and you'll see a dark blue square that says free drumless backing tracks every month. You just put your name and your email address in there, click get the first track now, and that's right, you get the first track right away just for signing up. And then every month after that, I'll send you a free one. I send you a bunch of other free stuff. I try to bribe you as much as possible into opening my emails. So I don't like to send a bunch of junky stuff that doesn't have much good content in it or free stuff in it. So, hey, jump over there and do that right now if you haven't already. danielhadaway.com. Josh, thank you so much for your question. I think it's a great one, and I really want you to be encouraged, though, to keep pushing down that path. And I definitely don't think you have to move to make your career as a pro drummer happen. All right, thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk again really soon. Bye for now.